Today I don't have my notes in front of me because, well, part of me wants to say I don't really know what I'm doing, but that would be a lie because I do know what I'm doing, or else I wouldn't be sitting recording this right now. Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of the Cripple Chronicles podcast. My name is Becca. If you haven't been here before, this is a podcast about disability, mental health, and all of the things that come with being an amputee. If you can see, it has been a few weeks since I've posted. I think I maybe missed an upload. I don't know, I think the last one was out at the end of July. It's now the 20th of August, me filming this, and usually I like to try and upload every 2 weeks. So I have been slacking a bit on uploads, but that is because I am working on something behind the scenes which I am very excited about. I am going to be releasing next, potentially, a video essay about euthanasia and the morals of it, kind of looking at it from both sides of the argument, and it's something that has just kind of captured my brain and kept me focused on things, which has been really good because my brain's been a bit all over the place just with life things, to be honest. Today I don't have my notes in front of me because, well, part of me wants to say I don't really know what I'm doing, but that would be a lie because I do know what I'm doing, or else I wouldn't be sitting recording this right now. Basically, this episode is just a bit of a catch-up, a life update, what has been going on in the life of Becca as an amputee. So if you're interested in it, then I am going to get straight into it. If you like watching me or listening to me, please like, subscribe, follow the podcast, share it with your pals, whatever you want to do. I would be very grateful. So what is the other thing? Oh yeah, Instagram, TikTok, at Cripple Chronicles Pod. If you would like to get in contact with me about any of the things I talk about in the podcast, amputation, disability, mental health, whatever it is, you can send me an email to cripplecchroniclespod@gmail.com and I will get back to you whenever I see it. So let's get into this week's episode. I have been doing a little bit of decorating around the house, so I have my wall here, which is probably going to be my backdrop for editing because I'm going to be moving my desk about, just trying to find a better way to use the space in my house because I'm somebody who finds comfort in my bedroom. I've made it very Becca, but although my walls are yellow in my living room, which is also very Becca, apart from behind me here, it is all very plain and I just don't like sitting in here as much as I do sitting in my bedroom. So I am planning on getting a few more things up. I've been painting the walls because I've been waking up at 8 a.m, getting to sleep probably 12, 1 a.m, and then just being on the go all day because clearly my brain is going over some things that, I don't know, maybe I'll talk about it in the podcast at one point, but just now I'm kind of at a point of indifference where I don't really know what to say, and to touch on the things that have been whirring and speeding about inside of my brain really would require some notes in front of me because I could just launch off on a rant, not really make any sense because there's no context behind it. I don't know, maybe it'll come to that, but just now I have just been trying to do things to keep myself sane, to be honest. I went for an appointment with my physio and prosthetist. I don't know if I mentioned this in any of the episodes, but I was potentially moving to a free moving knee. I was very excited about this because it has been one of my long-term goals since 2023. However, I was left for 2 months with a prosthetic, no kind of goal forward, just get to this appointment and we'll discuss it. I had a few phone calls where they were like, don't know if we've went about this too quickly, don't know, we'll need to see. So those 2 months I was really kind of left in limbo of what am I meant to be doing here? Because I'm trying to work on things, but I don't know if I'm working on the right things to move on to a free moving knee. And because I had a year without a prosthetic, I did think I would kind of be going back to the things I was doing before all of my fitting issues. Like, I had some strength training and stamina stuff in physics and physio, and it was going really well. So I kind of thought that might be similar to build me back up to the point that I was at. However, I've just been left to do it on my own, which in the NHS in the UK, that's not really a surprise, I don't think. However, I did make a kind of big recovery goal, which is I decided to just go out with my leg on, try and walk as far as possible, and I chose somewhere that had benches, but I didn't realise that they only had benches when I got there. So like, I walked probably like 300 metres, and then I got to a pond where there was like loads of benches around the pond, which is great because my prosthetic started hurting me. I had to take it off twice, turn it around, it kept on turning into the left and then digging up in, and it was really fucking sore. But then I had a 300-400 metre walk back to the car where there was no benches, so my rest on that 400 metres looked like me propping myself up against a tree to move my leg about, but I couldn't take any weight off of my good leg, not my prosthetic leg, because, well, there was nowhere to sit. So by the time I got back to the car, I was absolutely fucked. I went out and did this walk without any water on me, so I was like, okay, first things first, I'm going to fucking McDonald's, I'm going to get a drink because I am droofing. And I guess if you're not Scottish, droofing's a bit of a weird word, just means like really fucking thirsty. So got in the car, took a little drive to McDonald's, noticed I had enough points to get me some free chicken nuggets, which I was skint at the points, so that did me very well. And then I got a fruit shoot and a bottle of water, which out of McDonald's it was like £4 for 2 drinks, and I got my nuggets for free, so I was like, oh my god. That's something else. Over the past few months, finances have been really difficult. I have been waiting for my personal independence, adult disability payment in Scotland redetermination. So after me being a wheelchair user for a full year, my pain getting worse, and being told since having the frame on my leg that I was actually eligible for the enhanced rate of daily living and Motability. So I was only given the standard rate for daily living, and then my Motability money went towards my car. So from PIP ADP, I was getting around about £280 a month. And if you know the statistics, if you have listened to these episodes, it on average costs an extra £1,000 a month to live as a disabled person. So for the past few months, I have not been able to put a full tank of fuel in my car. I have had to borrow off of friends to go do shopping. I have basically spent a majority of time in the flat because I've not been able to get out and go places in my car because of the lack of fuel. And I have a bus pass that is free for transport, but I didn't get that sorted when I got my blue badge because I didn't see the point, because, well, I'm not really going to be using public transport that much, and I live at the top of a hill, so if I say go down, get the bus just to go out and get some fresh air, that means when I then get off the bus, I need to push myself back up a hill to get into the house. And if I've already been out and pushing myself, by the time I get there, I'm fucked. So it is really just trying to find a way to work inside of my body where I'm not causing extreme pain but still being able to do things. So on top of me being able to walk 1 kilometre with my prosthetic, when I went to that appointment, they said, look, with the straight knee, it shouldn't really be restricting you from doing things, but not having a socket that fits you properly is going to restrict things. So realistically, I should be doing all of the things I want to do with a free moving knee prosthetic with my knee locked straight. So I don't, like, they kept asking me what is going to be different, and I don't know. I had to say to them, like, telling me to try to go back and think about what things I want to do, that doesn't work for me because I'm in a place of finding out things I can do now. Like, before being disabled, I was a nurse. That was everything that I was doing. I was a nurse, I was going to the gym, and I was seeing my pals, and going out hill walking, which hill walking has always been number one on my list. It has always been, I'm going to get to the top of a Monroe, whether it's in 5 years or 20 years, I'll fucking do it. So that is something that I really want to get back to. So them being like, what's going to change? I don't know. But then them also saying, well, you should be able to do all of the things with a straight moving knee that you should do with a free moving knee. So I'm still a bit like, okay, then I guess I just put my leg on and do what I can, because they basically said, well, in 2 months you walked a kilometre, which means you've been doing better than when you had support from us. So just keep doing that and then get in contact if you want to change things. Like, okay, so I'm now waiting for a new prosthetic, because when I went to this appointment, they took a 3D model of my leg basically, and I asked when I went there, I was like, look, I don't actually know a lot about prosthetics. I don't know about the elements, what kind of things are available. I've never been told about this. So like when you ask me what's going to change or what differences are, I don't know what is possible. However, I have noticed that being a woman, when I am on my period, my stump tends to swell, which means my prosthetic can then feel quite tight. So I have seen somebody on social media who is from America, and she has like a dial on her prosthetic where she can tighten it and loosen it. And I was like, well, if my volume is going to consistently change when I get my period, surely that should be an option. I don't know if that is something that you can do. And they said, yeah, sure. Like, I mean, we'll need to put a dial on it, and it's a bit more like complex, I guess, which when it comes to me, something being complex isn't a fucking surprise. But I'd also said to them, like, look, after last year and not having a leg for a full year, I have extreme anxiety that I am going to do all of this work, all of this effort, work up to be back to where I was, my prosthetic stops fitting me, and then I'm fucked for 6 months again, because that is a time I need to wait to get a new prosthetic. And they basically said, well, unfortunately, we cannot give you any like reassurance that that's not going to be the case, because we are still in the exact same point that we were in 6 to 9 months ago, even though 6 to 9 months ago we hired new prosthetic technicians and they should be trained. Other non-complex prosthetics are actually getting sent away to get them made to stop waiting times, but because mine's is complex, then they need to do it themselves, so it could still be that wait time. However, unlike last year, I had no prosthetic at all that I could wear, because my prosthetic was far too small for me, so there wasn't anything they could do to make it bigger other than me wait to get the socket. I went through and went to get like a test socket where it was still air suctioning on and still the sizing was totally off. So they then said, right, go back to the waist belt, wearing it like that, and I got that leg in January of 2025 after, I think, waiting from March 2024. So it's been a process, to say the least, of just trying to do things and figuring out what works for me. I have spent a lot of time researching for this little video essay that I'm doing on euthanasia, because my special interest has always been mental health, psychology, how the brain works, and realistically, history doesn't do too great in my brain. So looking back and timing things from like ancient Greece before Christ was born, like that's the middle point. So it starts counting back and I'm like, oh. oh. So I can't remember if like 1 BC is like 100 years or 1,000 years. So time gets really murky round about that middle point for me. But when it comes to ethics and euthanasia, I wanted to get the whole like kind of historical perspective of it, so I can then all put it into a video essay. But what that means is I need to research it, and it means that I have, the way my brain works, it's like threads. So when, say, I've got euthanasia, morals, where did it start? So we go back to ancient Greece and we look at Plato and people like that, and then we move forward to Christ being born and Christianity coming into effect, and it then being a moral sin because life is the greatest gift given to you by God. So when people completed suicide or committed suicide in those times, they then were punished, or for better speaking, their dependents were punished, so they would not get a burial. And most of the time, kind of in the beginning of Christianity, when it came to like suicide or people just not wanting to live anymore, they basically would stop any entitlements that they were meant to get that would go to their family and things like that, which in my head I'm like, so suicide is a debate on its own, euthanasia is then assisted suicide, and in my brain I kind of sat down and I thought, what is my view right now on euthanasia? And then after I go through all of it and put it all together at the end, what is my view? Is it still the same? Is it changed? Are there other things that I would then tend to think about in that scenario? So it has been probably a solid 2 weeks of me researching. I have just got to the end of the historical part. Now I am kind of at like the 1900s modern ethics and how the euthanasia debate kind of plays out in modern terms, and then obviously it coming into being decriminalised or legalised in certain countries, but then also looking into what are the requirements in these countries. Is it physician assisted, where they give the medication and then the person decides if they want to take it, or is it a case of the doctor actually like putting something into the vein, turning on the machine, the lethal injection or whatever it is, substance in that then flows into the person and then they die. So that felt like a very blunt way to put it, but then it's like, well, is that then ultimately the doctor's choice and not the person's choice to end their life, but like they've agreed to it? And I think it's a very interesting thing to go into. So I tend to have all of these threads. I need to like note them all down, and then kind of like when you've got embroidery thread or something, there's like 4 threads in it, so all of these threads are just going to come together to create a big rope. I had to stop myself there from saying something fucking insane, and now I actually still want to say it, but like all these threads come together for a rope for me to hang myself. That is a joke. I am not being serious, but I still had to say it. So that's where my brain has been at with podcast things and kind of leg things, on top of my mobility outside of my prosthetic. So I got a new wheelchair probably about a year ago now, and I have been slowly working up to doing longer distances, because since I got my leg amputated, not only did I want to get to the top of Monroe with my prosthetic, I want to be able to complete a half marathon in my wheelchair, just to prove to myself that I can do both. So this has been something that has been in the back of my head since 2022, 2023. However, if you have seen the standard wheelchairs that the NHS give, they are bulky and they're fucking heavy. So when I was out pushing myself about, it was a lot of energy drain just from getting place to place, whereas with my new energy efficient wheelchair, I can get further distances with less effort, and it means that that goal of a half marathon is now kind of in a better view, I think, for me, than just like seeming so far away, because the Monroe still seems really far away, but I'm actually really excited because my pal that I get into hill walking with way before I had my accident, he has actually been living out in Australia for 2 years in September, and he is coming back home, and I spoke to him the other day and I was like, well, you can come over, we can have a catch up, you can tell me all about the Australian tea, I'll tell you what's been going on over here, and since I've got my prosthetic, we can maybe go out for a wee walk or something, be kind of reminiscent of old times. And that makes me really excited because, I mean, it's been 2 years since I've seen him. I can't believe that it's honestly been that long, but when I got my leg amputated, I was like, yeah mate, like when I get this sorted, we'll be doing pishy wee hills and then we'll be working up to the Monroe. And then he told me he was moving to Australia, and I was like, what the fuck, where's my hill walking pal gone, why? But yeah, so that's all kind of coming together. I feel like I'm getting on quite well in that area of my life. Like, my pain has been better managed. It could be a bit better. Like, the past few days whilst I've been painting and putting things up in the wall, I have been like standing up, sitting in positions where my leg is overextended or like sitting with my knee bent in my wheelchair, which because I broke my other leg in my accident, that can be really sore because I only got my knee bend back to 70, 80 degrees after getting my leg amputated. So it sat at like basically straight for 3 years. So when I got my leg amputated and I was able to actually sit properly in a wheelchair, you know, without that big massive frame all the way up my fucking leg, I was then able to bend it more, but it means that my knee can get locked in a bent position, it can overextend and get locked in a straight position and then really fucking hurts when I bend it. However, because I was just like pottering about and doing these things, I don't really tend to get pain until at night, and then I'm like, oh fuck, I have really overdone it this time. So 2 nights this week, we're only on Wednesday, so I'm doing fucking great. I have woke up with like extreme cramp in the back of my like calf on my left leg. It's not going to be my right leg, I don't have a right calf. But that was something where I was like, wow, I've been overextending and standing up and bending, and my body is really not happy with what I'm doing. So yesterday I went to the charity shop and I got some really fucking good bargains. And I think I maybe put 2 things up on the wall and I was like, right, that's me done. I've done all of my washing, put all of my washing away. I have emptied out drawers that I'm planning on taking to the skip. I have posted my telly and a unit from the living room on Facebook to give away for free for like people who are starting out, because it's quite an old telly, but like I said, I am somebody that spends a lot of time in my room, so if I'm watching the telly, I watch the telly in my room. So I'm wanting to give that away because I have a bit of a better idea. So it was actually something that a pal had said to me about getting a projector, and I was like, oh my god, that's such a good idea. And then I mentioned it to Eleanor and she already has one that I can have. So I'm getting rid of my TV, but then I'm going to have a projector for like movie nights, for when pals come over and things like that, which is really exciting. But it gives me more room to move about as well, because getting rid of that TV unit that sticks out from the wall means that I've then got space. I can go freely right up to the window and then back, and I'm sorted. But it's one of those things, I feel like I'm kind of finally getting into a groove of things, of finding places where things work and fit. I also had a visit from the council OTs. I also don't know if I've mentioned this in other episodes. Again, I feel like I've not really done a little update video in a bit. So at the beginning of 2025, after me not having a prosthetic, being a full-time wheelchair user, I realised how not wheelchair friendly my kitchen is. So it's not that it's inaccessible, but it's just not wheelchair friendly. So I'll maybe put some videos in here of what it actually looks like in my kitchen just now. So the majority of my cupboards are above the units, which means I need to stand up out of my wheelchair, most likely overextend my leg and hurt my knee to get things out of those cupboards. And then the units are actually very high. When they came out initially, they'd said that it is actually higher than it would be typically. So I felt quite annoyed after I had my last appointment, because they came in, I told them, like, look, this isn't working out for me. I can't reach things. I can't get properly right up to the unit to do things because there's no clearing under it. So my foot plate of my wheelchair gets stuck. I can't get up to the sink properly, which means I'm then bending over and slumping my back and kind of hurting myself to do it. And then when it came to my bathroom, I have a self-propelling shower chair, but it was over the toilet. So for me to go into the shower, I'd need to park my manual chair, get up, get into the shower chair, take the brakes off my manual chair, take the brakes off the shower chair, push my manual chair right out of the bathroom whilst moving forward on the shower chair, then reverse back round the corner and into the shower. So that is a lot of work to get in the shower and then getting back out. I need to do the same thing. So I'd said, like, I don't need this shower chair anymore. Like, it would be helpful just to have handrails or something. So they put that in. They put in some handrails. My shower chair now sits in the shower. However, when they came back out, I was like, one last thing is I need some handrails in here, because when I'm standing up, I'm having to hyperextend my leg to put it against the back of the shower chair, dry myself, to then kind of sit in my wheelchair. And I like to get dressed in the bathroom, so I like to be totally dry in the bathroom before I go into my wheelchair. And that was fine. They said, like, yep, we can get a handrail on either side. That's fine. But then something really odd the OT had said was like, oh, well, you can like take your shower chair into your room. So like if you're getting a shower in the morning, it's in there. But then when I actually went for a shower the first time after they'd been, I was like, that doesn't work out, because I'd need to leave my wheelchair still out of the bathroom. So I'd need to use a shower chair to get up in the morning, to go to the toilet and then get into the shower. But how do I get to, like, if I get dressed in the bathroom, how do I get back to my bedroom to get my wheelchair without my clothes getting wet from the shower chair, or without having to blow dry the shower chair? Because if I then self-propel that into my bedroom, I've then traipsed a lot of wet water through my flat, and that's not good from like a mould perspective, because I've got laminate, but it's also not good for a mobility perspective if I want to get in the shower in the morning and then put my leg on, because they're talking about me wearing my leg in my house, which I explained to them on multiple occasions. Like, since I got my leg amputated, I've always said I will be a wheelchair user in my house so that I can go out and I can do more with my prosthetic on. Just now, at a point of recovery, yeah, it means I have it on in the house sometimes, but that is not my plan. And they were like, okay, perfect, we spoke to the adaptions team, you've been approved for it, you'll get like a lower unit put in. And then the team lead came out with a new OT, because the OT I seen the first time was going into maternity leave. So they came out, and even on the phone they'd said like, yeah, I think it's better just to work it for a wheelchair user. And I was like, okay, perfect, love it. Then they came out and they're like, I mean, you're young, you're still kind of early with your mobility. What if you decide you want to wear your leg in the house? And I'm like, have you actually not listened to anything I've said? Like, how? I'm like, I probably wear my leg in the house right now 20% of the time. Like, and that's if I'm more likely to put my leg on and go outside of the house, because that is what my goal is. Like, I am a wheelchair user at home so that I then have the energy and all of the things I need and the pain tolerance and whatever to go out and do shit with my prosthetic on. But then also when we were in the kitchen, the OT was like, well, I think it's just so much easier to walk about when you're in the kitchen. Like, I just think it must be a bit of a faff to be in a wheelchair. And I'm like, but you've got two legs. You are used to walking about. I've been using a wheelchair since 2019. Well, the start of 2020. Like, we're at 5 years now. So they basically said, right, listen to this. So although I was approved by the council for the major adaptions and whatever to get a lowered counter and a lowered sink and all of that in my kitchen, after they came out, they said, do you know what? We'll just do a temporary fix just now. We'll just get you a dining room table and we'll just put it in there and you're sorted and you can have a few things on your table and then that's where you can prepare food. Like, okay, thanks. My mind's not going to change, but they basically said, well, if you decide you want to wear your prosthetic all the time and you're in the house, then the council's not going to adapt it to change it from being wheelchair accessible. Like, if I was going to use it with my prosthetic on, when you came out to see me, I would have had my prosthetic on and been like, yeah, this is how I go about. I do things in the kitchen, but I don't. So that's a little bit of an update on disability things that have been going on and kind of podcast things of why I've not been posting. I have also still been mentoring my young person through MCR Pathways, and I have actually just met my second mentee who is at the beginning of third year, so that means no exams this year. Got a year to just kind of get to know each other and find out what works, and then kind of fourth and potentially fifth year if they stay on till fifth year. And I am still in contact with my first mentee who actually got their exam results the other week, and we met up and we spoke about it and our plans for college. and there is actually some content coming out from MCR Pathways which features me and my first mentee, and my Pathways coordinator showed me it when I was in the school last, and I was actually just like nearly sitting in the canteen bawling, because like I know that I make a difference, and I know that my mentee appreciates me and the effort that I kind of put into mentoring, but seeing how somebody speaks about you when you're not in the room is a whole other level of pride. Like to hear a young person say, yeah, she made me believe in myself and come back to school and know that I can go to uni and college, like that is fucking massive, because I'm being the person that I needed when I was younger, and that's something that has become so important to me. It has always been important. I always wanted to go into mental health and potentially work in CAMS because I felt like I'd been let down by them and I didn't want other people to feel let down. But then when I get into the system, I realised that it's not about the nurses or the psychologists, it's the whole system that's fucked, and trying to do good in a system that's fucked is very difficult. So things I've taken more of a direction into like education, mentoring, thinking about being an advocate, potentially doing some kind of a law degree at uni or some certifications that qualify me to not only advocate for myself and within the mentor programme, but on a wider whole for potentially disability and mental health. And that is something that I would love to do. However, this year it has felt very much like my focus is on my mobility, getting out in my wheelchair. That was what else I was going to say. It was on a tangent about doing a half marathon. I went down to Leeds for Eleanor's birthday and we went to Yorkshire Wildlife Park, it was such a great day out. Like we just got to be nerdy and geek out and so happy at being around animals, but like the park is absolutely fucking massive. So Eleanor was also in her wheelchair and then Jonathan was with us walking with his cane. So I just took it upon myself. I was like, look, I'm going to push myself. I'm fine. And if Elle needs a hand, like Jonathan can help. So on that day out, I managed to do 6.5 kilometres, and I think the total moving time was maybe like 45 minutes to an hour, which is wild. Doing that distance in my wheelchair in like 45 minutes. Like realistically, we were in the park for maybe like 2-3 hours, but still it made me realise that things are possible. My caster wheels on the front of my wheelchair though, I feel like they're quite small in comparison, and I've been finding myself getting stuck on like the tactile paving for blind people, like outside shops or like crossing streets. I tend to have to like flick my wheels up so that the front wheels aren't getting caught. However, since getting backdated my adult disability payment, I am hopefully going to be able to get a kind of additional wheel for the front, which makes it a lot easier to get over these things, and then it'll hopefully make my journey to my half marathon a lot easier too. So I have been recording for nearly 40 minutes. I am totally shook because when I started it was like 9 minutes in and I was like, wow, this is going to be a really short episode because I actually don't think that I've got a lot to say, and I've just totally surprised myself. So that's where I'm going to leave it for today. It's been a bit of a jumble, to be honest, but that is what has been going on in the life of Becca over the past few months. And yeah, I am pretty excited about the euthanasia kind of video essay. If you wouldn't like to miss it, remember to subscribe, turn your notifications on, and you will get notified when I post that. And just kind of in the meantime, if I post any other little episodes whilst I am working on this, because I have been on like a 2-weekly schedule. Like I said, I've left it like 3 weeks before even recording from like when I last posted, but that's not important. It is just one of those things, and I am trying. I feel like I've kind of done better with the consistency this year than last year. I kind of just sacked it off for a while, but making moves. getting there. Yeah, I hope you have enjoyed listening to me ramble on about what has been going on in the life of Becca. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Cripple Chronicles. When I record next, it might be a different background or it might be the same, but we'll see. Take care of yourselves, look after the people you love, give them an extra squeeze, drink your water, take some snacks, and yeah, look after yourselves. I will see you in the next one. Oh yeah, subscribe to the socials, send me an email, whatever. Much love. Woo!